My name is David Jeroth. I am the founder of Illuminum and the creator of gaia.eco. In this webinar, we will take a look at biodiversity baselines and targets for large organizations. And this webinar is the first in the series of how to solve your biodiversity problems. The next webinar will be about biodiversity for investors. Thereafter, we have economic valuation of ecosystem services. And these three hang together. So it's nice to know about baselines so that you can understand economic valuation of ecosystem services and then how can investors benefit from all of that. Then we will take a summer break. After summer, there will be webinars on protected species, invasive alien species, and we will dive deeper into European Union compliance on biodiversity for large organizations. And we will take a look at voluntary biodiversity reporting. So this is basically the series of webinars. This one is about biodiversity baselines and targets. So without further ado, let us start. First question is, why do we need a biodiversity baseline and what is it? So let's start with the why. There are essentially two reasons. One of them is European Union compliance, CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. And within that chapter or within that framework, there is a chapter on biodiversity impact. It's called ESRS E4. And this is where organizations must disclose their impacts on biodiversity as part of the annual sustainability reporting. Now, the first reports were supposed to come out already in 2025. These concerned banks, insurance companies. Large corporates will come in 2027. Sorry to be specific. In the fiscal year 2027, the large corporates will have to report in 2028. And so we need these biodiversity baselines for compliance and reporting. The second reason why we need a baseline is when it comes to upgrading of ecosystems. So there are companies and organizations that are upgrading monocultures to diverse ecosystems, degraded ecosystems to vibrant ecosystems. And to name a few, hydropower companies, forestry companies, and regional governments that are working with national parks, national reserves. So they too need a biodiversity baseline. You have to measure and follow up biodiversity regularly. Today, ecologists are sent into the field to do inventory. They are there for a couple of days, maybe a week, max a month. This creates a snapshot, which is completely insufficient because we need to take a look at all year round biological and ecological activities. And for that, you need to have something else. That something is gaia.eco, software which we have developed at Illuminum, which is a global service which collects data of different types. It has the most data there is in terms of occurrences, biotic relationships, and in terms of WMS and WMF layers, which is raster data. And we will take a look at all of that so you get concrete examples. So that's very quickly about Gaia. To repeat, we need biodiversity baselines for compliance, reporting, and upgrading of ecosystems. Let me give you an example. In Finland is a hydropower and forestry company called UPM. And the staff gets more salaries when the team as a whole, or the company as a whole, increases biodiversity in their forests and restore rivers by removing dams. So in some companies, it's really taken seriously. What is a biodiversity baseline? Well, now it's time to take a look at my screen. What I have here is the software gaia.eco, which we have developed. It has 4 modules: gallery, map, nexus, and layers. What we are looking at is basically my search of monarch butterfly, which lives in United States and Canada and Mexico. Gallery is pretty straightforward module. However, here we have occurrences of the plants the butterfly pollinates. Like I said, Gaia understands biotic relationships, so it pollinates all of these plants. That was basically a divergent. Let's take a look at what is a biodiversity baseline. So here I have searched for monarch butterfly occurrences. I typed in Florida, and if I zoom in, the blue dots are plants it pollinates, the yellow dots is basically the butterfly itself. So I can take a look at, for example, this occurrence and see its pictures. Here I saw the butterfly itself as a caterpillar. There we go, here. Now, occurrences can be translated into a baseline. In Gaia, analytics are at the bottom right corner. So here is a button which will open up KPIs. The KPIs in this case says there are 20 species, 760 observations, and here we have a couple of indices which we want to measure. The most important one is Shannon-Wiener Biodiversity Index, which measures biodiversity. This is basically amount of species over a certain area. In this case, the index is 1.8, which is not much. But to be fair, I just looked at one species and its connections through pollination. So it's it's a basic, basically, information. Then we have Simpson and berker-parker dominance indices, i.e. which species are dominant in a certain area compared to others. Now, that's a baseline, and we want to increase this number. Here in this case of the butterfly, it's not really representative. So let's take a look at another example. Here we are in southern Sweden, where I have searched for birds, insects, and plants. And for Swedes who know this area or who know southern Sweden, this is Falsterbo Peninsula. It's a sand dune which moves over time. Now, here I have searched, like I said, for birds, insects, and plants because they are connected together. And let's imagine a certain example. Let's imagine you have a site, such as a field, a factory, a new city district. You have a bunch of sites, perhaps 2 or 3 mines, and you want to know how biodiversity looks like in those specific areas. So here you start to combine lots of different data. Let me turn off, let me do one more thing. Let's take a look at the KPIs here. So here we have 380 species found in this area. Again, Shannon-Wiener Biodiversity Index, but here it's 5.09. Now the index is basically going between 0 and 7. If you search for one species, you will get 0. Then it starts to rise up. What I will do now, I will forward all of this data into our AI. And that will write me a report. As you can see, it renders a text based on the data. All of the data has been sent to Claude in this case, and Claude is reasoning. Now I will let that run, and we will take a look at another example of a baseline. Here I have searched for osprey, and I have not taken a look at observations or occurrences at the moment, but what I have taken a look at here are its relationships to other species. So here I have osprey in the middle, and I wanted to see what it eats and what it's being preyed upon by. So let's take a look at this blue line. It's being eaten by, and here we have the king eagle. Here we have another species, which is this crocodile. And like that, you can take a look at a different set of KPIs, and it's about the interconnectedness of this particular species to other species. Species richness 147 interactions of the osprey, what it eats and is being eaten by. Actually, I have taken a look at more of stuff. Prey zone has parasite, eats, eaten by ectoparasites, endoparasites, pathogens, and predatory. So that's another type of KPI and a baseline. So to sum up, shannon-wiener important, interconnectedness important, dominance important. Another thing is that species produce ecosystem services, to name a few: pollination of bees, fixation of carbon by trees or lentils, fixation of nitrogen, and so on. This is chemical and mechanical processing, which we do not have to pay for as a society. It's a free bonus. And what we want is to increase biodiversity so that we can increase the ecosystem services which we benefit from. All right, we have to measure biodiversity over a certain area. In this case, I have this peninsula. In this case, I have the peninsula of Florida. And the Shannon-Wiener Biodiversity Index, this one, takes a look at amount of species over a certain area. So Florida is massive. Here I have a very tiny peninsula. So, and also more species. So the index is 5 and there it's 1.8. You see the hexagons. Hexagons can be used as split of the baselines. So in this case, if I click on the hexagon, I can see that within that hexagon are 95 species, and the biodiversity within that area is 4.3. Like I said, it's not enough to just measure biodiversity within the site's borders or the land. It must be done in a larger context. So let's say I have my site in the middle of the peninsula. I do want to take a look at plants, birds, and insects around the whole thing. Now, let me mention, there are 3 kingdoms within the eukaryotic tree of life: animals, plants, and fungi. Gaia understands species, it understands genuses, families, it understands kingdoms. So whatever you type in here will be understood and processed. If you want butterflies or a specific butterfly, Gaia will pick it up and understand what is it that you want. Then there are other domains of life, archaea and bacteria. Gaia does not work with that. Gaia works with eukaryota, i.e. the visible life, plants, animals, and fungi. All right, so we measure biodiversity within a certain space. Now, here comes the challenge. Some species are static. They are placed in that spot all year round. Then we have migrations, and you can have migrations through the area or to the area or from the area. And species migrate to reproduce, to find food, to find safety, for example, in between changing seasons. You have births and you have deaths. So biodiversity changes over time. And this is why we have developed the histogram. So the blue curve or the teal curve, this one, that's basically the related species of the monarch butterfly, i.e. plants. But then this blue curve, that's the monarch butterfly itself. Now you can restrict that and filter that according to your needs so that you can see, for example, this week or this month. Here at the top, I have dates. So what I searched for was last quarter worth of data since the 19th of March until today, what is it today? 17th of June. Here it says, though, 3rd of June, not 17th. Why? Because it takes a while for Gaia to update. Usually takes a week. So it's always fresh data with 1 week or max 2 weeks lag. It's important to analyze biodiversity in context. So here I have a WMS service from the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency. And I will zoom in properly so that we can take a look at this sand dune. I will turn off the hexagons so that we are not disturbed by them. Let's go from level 7 to off. And let's say I have this bird here, right? And it's on a certain background. Here it says sandbanks in Swedish. Let's take a look at this area. Here it says lagoon. Let's take a look at this area. Here it says gray dunes. So I can take a look at the occurrences in the context of the habitat type. And this is important. In Gaia, you have a WMS and WMF search engine. So if you type in a hyperlink, or if you just type in Swedish Environmental Protection Agency, or you type in Norwegian Environmental Protection Agency, or you type in Czech Geological Survey, or United States Forest Service, Gaia will search those GIS layers and you will be able to add them to the map, just like I have added the habitat types. So that's another thing. Like I said, it's a search engine for occurrences, for relationships. That data comes from academic papers, which are peer-reviewed, and then we have the GIS layers, which are coming from open data organizations. The targets, obviously, we want to increase that number. So we want to go from 5 to 6, from 6 to 7, and so on. Now, Gaia's module nexus. Here I don't have anything. Right. Here I have the example of osprey. So if I want to help osprey, I want to take a look at what it eats, and then from its diet, select species which are easily manageable to introduce to an ecosystem. So this is, I believe, parasite. Let's take a look at what it eats. I think it's this red line. Preys on, right? So here we have species it preys on. So perhaps we want to introduce this fish. I bet there is another fish right here because it's structured by genus and so on. So the module nexus, the one with the relationships, helps you to design, for example, plants in the context of landscape architecture, which then attracts insects, which then attracts birds, and you can create network effects. So if you play with this nexus module long enough, you will be able to devise a strategy of how to improve, for example, the livelihood of osprey. Now, if you want to increase the Shannon Biodiversity Index, you will be forced to do certain measures. And that will be your guideline. Here, I do recommend strongly to work with ecologists, because even though you have 20 million relationships here, ecologists know what is the most common interaction, what is uncommon, what is rare and random. So they want to be part of the design process, or you want them to be part of the design process. All right, this is the end of my summary about baselines and targets. Let's make a very short one-liner. You want to have biodiversity baselines for compliance, reporting, and upgrading of ecosystems. We measure biodiversity using certain KPIs, such as, let me go here back again to the birds, insects, and plants. We measure them through the H apostrophe biodiversity index, and we want to increase this number over time. We can take a look at ecosystem services. Here I have my report already prepared based on the insects, plants, and birds, what AI has reported. But let's take a look at, for example, the economic valuation of ecosystem services. I have questions prepared, and I can, for example, estimate the value that species are creating at present. I will let this run. 1.5 to 9 million euro. Interesting. Another thing is that we need to measure biodiversity in a certain place. We have developed the hexagonal network so that you can compare hexagon to hexagon or the whole area. And the last thing are the layers, WMS, WMF layers, which can help you with the context. Now, with this being said, for those of you who don't have an account for gaia.eco, please do sign up so that I can inform you easily. You go to our homepage and here you sign in. This will mean that you end up in our mail list, but you will be also able to use Gaia if you have that account. So here I already have an account and I end up in the free license instance. So please do sign up so that I can inform you easily about updates and about coming events. And last, I would like to talk about what do we offer. We offer software as a service, which you have just seen against a license. We offer education courses, how to reason, how to use Gaia, how to make good reports, and how to be a professional, no matter if you're a researcher or a consultant or a consumer of biodiversity insights, such as an internal sustainability officer. And then if it's just too much and too overwhelming to work with all of these concepts and data and process that, we offer full service of processing your site or sites into TNFD, CSRD, CSRD, ESRS E4, or restoration or design of ecosystems. That's all from me. And now I would like to open up space for questions.